when you really get to know someone is in two circumstances. One in the quiet, or two under pressure. One in the quiet, or two under pressure. And so often, when God is taking us through these difficult times in our lives, He's giving us an opportunity to understand Him in a relationship that's under pressure. But isn't that the natural flow of how the rest of us get to know each other? Now, how did I know that Ryan was never going anywhere? How did I know that he was the one for me and he was never going anywhere? Well, one, God told me he was the one for me, and that was one thing. Because I told you before, I told God very clearly this is not what I ordered and He should take it back. Because God sent me what I needed, not what I ordered. And I'm very glad now. I should have said that the last time I said that in church. I am really glad that He sent me what I needed. But it just wasn't in my head what I thought I wanted. And you all laughing at me like that didn't happen to you. I know that happened to you. I'm the one who teaches the course on how God sends you the dead opposite to yourselves, puts you in a confined area, adds pressure, and watches the fireworks for a good time in heaven. That's the definition of marriage. Have you never heard that before? Two people, confined area, lots of pressure, watch the fireworks happen. God designed marriage to perfect us. You understand that? Yes. It wasn't made for wine and roses and whatever. No, I'm sorry. No. You all understand. Have you... I was going to say, you all know that that's not how the men work, right? Everybody understands that? That's how they do it in TV to make you think that's how they work. They don't work that way. It's not how it happens. But my point is that God wants us to get to know Him, to know that He's not going anywhere in the quiet under the pressure, in the hard, dark times at 3 a.m. That's when we really know that He's showing us that He's not going anywhere and that He wants us to understand Him in a different level. He wants us to understand what He wants for us in a different way. He wants to get intimate. So the whole big secret to hearing from God, hearing the voice of God, you got to be willing to be quiet. So if you're loud and wild and crazy like me, it might take more effort than some of the gentler, quieter, sweeter folks. But that's when you really get to hear His voice, when it gets quiet. All through the Bible, every time something got seriously stressful, you see them set themselves apart and go hear from Him. Jesus did that repetitively in the New Testament as our example. Every time it got serious, He went off by Himself to talk to His Father. Now, was there a big explosion and fireworks show over there and crazy nonsense going on and ripping and tearing? No. Now, when He got upset and went into the temple and when He was straightening out some of the Pharisees and they had their stuff all messed up and He needed to give them a little come to Jesus meeting, straighten them out, He got loud and crazy and a little bit wild. But not when He was talking to His Father. Not when He was having intimate time. It was quiet. It was personal. It was really, really, really personal. Now, I don't know if any of you who've had relationships have had this, but when I, in the early days, got quiet with Ryan, when we finally ran out of things to say after 8 hours, daily on the phone, when we got broke and ran out of things to say, it got kind of scary for me. Because all of a sudden I realized I told him all my secrets. He was starting to know that I wasn't perfect. Because he thought so for quite a while. Still do, eh, hun? He figured out I wasn't perfect. He knew all my secrets. And then all of a sudden I felt really exposed. Really, really vulnerable. You know what I did? I told him to go away. I told him to pack up his offer of loving me and hit the trail. I tried to break up with him 400 times. So he saved our relationship because he stubbornly decided that I was the one God had for him and he was going to wait until I was done fussing. And I was done fussing because I felt exposed because someone actually saw me for the first time in my whole life. And that's what God wants with us. He wants us to let him see us for all that we are. Because really, folks, the secret is he really already does. But he wants us to be comfortable with it. And what happens in the church quite often is people will make progress and make progress and make progress, and then all of a sudden they start to feel vulnerable, and they will run away from God or take a big step back. It's just a little too much. It's just not quite right. It's not what I ordered. It's not how I planned it. This is not what I signed up for. This is not my committee. Remember, I ran through these all the last time I preached to you. Not my committee, not my calling, not what I ordered, not what I thought, not whatever. There's a whole lot of nots at church. And so what I want to encourage you with tonight is that there is more than we know. There is a whole other part in God that we have not even begun to imagine in the quiet. There is an entire intimate side of him that we've only just begun to understand. And so let him take us deeper. Let him take you to another place that you didn't think was possible. But you got to be willing to be vulnerable. You got to be willing to do it his way. You got to be willing to be okay with the quiet and the stillness. And that's when we really get to know him. But what's really happening is we're letting him get to know us. If you can wrap your mind around that one. See, because we inherently think we're hiding things from God. You know that, right? I know in church we never say that. I know I'm the worst. I was a pastor's kid. I'll tell you how it is. Whether it's, I will just tell you the truth all the time, whether it's appropriate or inappropriate for church or not. All right? And what happens is we don't truly think that God can see all of us because we hide ourselves from other people all the time. So in our minds, we think, even though we say God knows all of me, or God can know all of me, or sees all of me, we know from Sunday school God sees everything. He's omnipresent. We know that he sees everything in our heads, but in our hearts and our spirits, we don't act as if he does. We don't open ourselves as if he does. So see, there's a choice there. There's a choice to let him have all of you, to move in all of you, to be so intimate with you that his very breath changes what you do. His very breath changes the makeup of your day, the makeup of your thought process, the makeup of everything that you are and that you will ever be, simply because he breathes near you. We don't understand how big and how amazing God is. We don't understand how much of him there is to know. And we stop all the time. Biggest problem in the church. We forgot that God's the boss. He's supposed to be the boss. And we forgot that there's way more to know. We know that much. I want more than that. Don't you want more than that? You want it all. You want to know the whole deal, man. Imagine what that's like. Imagine the change that you can incur in someone else's life simply by coming up beside them with your intimate partner so strong in your life. That's why the shadow of the disciples healed people. Because the intimacy of the Spirit of God oozed through their pores. It's phenomenal what can happen. It's phenomenal. Charles Spurgeon said, "The voice which is not outside is omnipotent inside." Now let me run that by you one more time, because it took me a minute to wrap my head around it. The voice which is not outside is omnipotent inside. So what does that mean? There are lots of incidences in the Bible where God speaks in an audible voice to people. He has a purpose for that. It's sort of like the bigger, louder, hello, here I am kind of stuff. But not over long periods. Do you see him constantly, audibly speaking to people for long periods, right? It's sort of more like, hi, I need your attention, please. And so that voice that is within us, so it's not outside of us, that's within us, can be omnipotent. It can be in control of it all. And so often I think we spend a lot of time saying, well, I'm not sure if I'm hearing God, or I'm not sure if I know that this is God, or whatever. My God knows how to make sure you know. But one of my big problems is I don't slow down long enough so he can tell me. I get one good idea and I'm gone. I'm already chasing that squirrel. Right? I'm gone, going. And then all of a sudden he has to yell at me, are you sure that was me? And then I got to come back and settle down. Now, I know I'm not the only one in here, but you all nodding at me like, oh, you poor fool. I know I'm not the only one who has that problem. But God wants to be able to slow us down long enough that we know when it's him. So, in order to answer the question, how can I hear from God? How do I know it's God? Get quiet, look for the small, still voice, and then let him confirm it to you because you held still long enough. That's it. Simple, eh? I told you. God's so simple.